Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on ancient Rome. Forget the grand marble statues and the epic battles you see in movies for a second. We're diving deep into the shadows, into the back alleys and secret meetings where the real power plays happened. This is the story of political intrigue, conspiracies, and betrayals that were so scandalous they often get glossed over in your history textbooks. So, grab your toga and let's uncover the secrets the Senate didn't want you to know. Let's start with a name you all know, Julius Caesar. We remember him as a brilliant general and a powerful dictator, but his rise to power wasn't just about winning battles. It was a master class in political maneuvering. In 60 BC, Rome was dominated by two powerful men, Pompey the Great, a celebrated general, and Crassus, the richest man in Rome. They were bitter rivals. Caesar, a charismatic and ambitious politician, saw an opportunity. Instead of picking a side, he did the unthinkable. He brought them together. This secret alliance became known as the First Triumvirate. It wasn't an official government position. It was a pact, a gentleman's agreement made behind closed doors. Essentially, Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus promised to use their combined influence, Caesar's popularity, Pompey's military might, and Crassus's immense wealth to bypass the Senate and push their own agendas. They scratched each other's backs, ensuring Caesar got his consulship, Pompey got land for his veterans, and Crassus got military commands. The Roman Republic was, for all intents and purposes, being run by a secret committee. The Senate was furious, but powerless. This shadow government showed just how fragile the Republic had become, and it set a dangerous precedent for one-man rule. Of course, pacts built on ambition rarely last. The triumvirate began to crumble after Crassus was killed in battle. With him gone, the rivalry between Caesar and Pompey exploded. The Senate, fearing Caesar's growing power and popularity after his conquest of Gaul, sided with Pompey. They ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, where he would surely face prosecution from his political enemies. This brings us to one of history's most famous turning points. Standing at the edge of the Rubicon River, the legal boundary of Italy, Caesar had a choice. Cross with his army, and he would be declaring civil war, stay put, and his career would be over. As he famously said, Alia iactu est, the die is cast. He crossed the river, plunging Rome into a devastating civil war. This wasn't just a military decision, it was the ultimate political gamble. Caesar was betting everything on his ability to defeat not just Pompey, but the entire establishment of the Roman Republic. And as we know, he won, paving the way for him to become dictator for life. But becoming the most powerful man in Rome also made him the biggest target. This leads us to the most infamous conspiracy of all, the assassination of Julius Caesar on the Ides of March 44 BC. We often hear that he was killed by senators who wanted to restore the Republic. Well, that's true. The story is far more personal and complex. The conspiracy involved over 60 senators, but it was led by men Caesar considered his allies, even friends. One of the key figures was Marcus Junius Brutus. Brutus's own mother was Caesar's lover, and some historians even whisper that Brutus might have been Caesar's illegitimate son. Caesar had pardoned Brutus after the Civil War and had given him high-ranking positions. Yet, Brutus was driven by a deep-seated belief in the Republic, a legacy from his ancestor who had helped overthrow Rome's last king. He felt Caesar's ambition was a threat to Roman liberty and that his personal loyalty couldn't stand in the way of his civic duty. Then there was Cassius, the other lead conspirator, who held a more personal grudge against Caesar. He felt overlooked and disrespected by the dictator. Together, they convinced a group of senators that tyranny had to be stopped with a dagger. The betrayal was so profound because it came from within Caesar's own circle. The assassins believed the people would hail them as liberators. They were disastrously wrong. The public was horrified, and Caesar's right-hand man, Mark Antony, masterfully turned public opinion against them with a fiery funeral speech. Instead of restoring the Republic, the assassination plunged Rome into another 13 years of brutal civil war. The power vacuum they created was ultimately filled not by the Senate, but by another ambitious young man, Caesar's adopted son, Octavian. The intrigue didn't stop when Rome became an empire. In fact, it just moved inside the palace walls. Let's talk about Livia Drusilla, the wife of the first emperor, Augustus. Officially, Livia was presented as the perfect Roman matron, dignified, loyal, and devoted to her family. But behind the scenes, whispers and accusations followed her everywhere. Augustus had a long and prosperous reign, but nearly every potential successor who stood between Livia's own son, Tiberius, and the throne met an untimely end. First, there was Marcellus, Augustus's nephew and chosen heir. He died suddenly from a mysterious illness. Then, Augustus's two grandsons, Gaius and Lucius Caesar, whom he had adopted as his own sons and heirs. Both died young, one from a wound on campaign, the other from another sudden illness while traveling. Coincidence? The Roman historian Tacitus certainly didn't think so. He heavily implies that Livia orchestrated these deaths to clear the path for Tiberius. The final, most shocking accusation is that Livia may have even poisoned Augustus himself. The story goes that she smeared poison on figs while they were still on the tree and then innocently offered them to him. Whether these rumors are true or just slander from her enemies, they paint a picture of a woman who was a brilliant and ruthless political player in her own right, using poison and plots as her weapons. And the palace intrigue only got more intense. Fast forward to the reign of Emperor Claudius. Claudius is often remembered as a bit of a bumbling, physically disabled emperor who was manipulated by those around him. But the real mastermind during his reign was arguably his third wife, Valeria Messalina. Messalina was infamous for her appetites and her political ambition. She used her position as empress to eliminate anyone she saw as a threat. She would falsely accuse her rivals of treason or immorality, and the terrified Claudius would sign their death warrants. Her downfall was as dramatic as her life. While Claudius was away from Rome, Messalina took her plotting a step too far. She participated in a public marriage ceremony with her lover, a senator named Gaius Silius. Was it a drunken prank, or a genuine attempt to overthrow Claudius and place her new husband on the throne? We'll never know for sure, but when Claudius's powerful advisors found out, they knew they had to act. They convinced the hesitant emperor that Messalina was plotting to kill him. Panicked, Claudius ordered her execution. Messalina's story is a chilling example of how personal drama and political power could become a deadly cocktail in the imperial court. From backroom deals that dismantled the Republic to poison plots within the palace, the real history of Rome is a gripping saga of ambition, betrayal, and a relentless quest for power. These stories remind us that politics has always been a human drama filled with characters whose flaws and desires shaped the course of history. The grand monuments and laws were just the stage. The real action was happening in the shadows. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the secret corridors of Roman power. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden histories, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the past. Let me know in the comments which Roman conspiracy you find the most fascinating. Until next time, stay curious.